And so I play around with like seeing, like me interviewing myself here in some way, like try to see people like actually around the dinner table looking through someone else's eyes and seeing me eating and, all this stuff. And trying to feel what it's like to not be separate. And at the same time, it's just such a, I don't know, it's just such a normal thing to like have an argument with somebody over the my experience being right, your experience. I don't know. What are your thoughts about like the higher self? Like you mentioned that earlier. Like how do you think about gaining benefit from a higher self perspective?
Yeah, one thing I started practicing, I was reading a lot of Paul Selig at the time, and I started playing with setting intentions to experience people at different levels. And Paul Selig did this. I went to one of his workshops, and he began as a psychic, and he has a particular way of accessing people. Like he will say, let me go to you for this. Like I'll ask him a question and I'll go, let me go to you for this. And he'll like experience a version of me that isn't my ego persona. And then he can experience somebody else and kind of get to the root of an issue. Like he did examples of this mother and daughter that were fighting. The daughter was not here, the mother was. And it's like, let me go to you for this. And it's like, you're actually fearful of this. You think it's this. And then to be like, let me go to her. And then they kind of bickered back and forth. And he's like, let me go to a higher version of her. And then he went to a higher version of her. And I was so inspired by that. And I'm like, I wonder if I can do that intentionally. And so it's something that I still play around with,
Whoa.
where I do it, especially with my mom, because my mom is an amazing human and we have a very close relationship. And we have all the complexities of a mother-daughter relationship, especially with what I put her through in my 20s. And now I'm having a baby and she's getting a little more controlling in her age. And so there's times where she's coming at me in a way, and I am creating a story that makes me see her so one-dimensionally that I'm like, okay, I know that I am experiencing her lower self from my lower self. Can I go to a higher version? Like, what is at the core of this? And sometimes just that intention softens my own energy. I can feel it in my body. And then all of a sudden, I'm experiencing that exact same situation completely differently, and just seeing maybe like it turns from being this controlling moment of criticizing my parenting to, wow, she loves both of us so much that she wants the best for us in this moment. And this is how she's showing it. And all of a sudden I'm able to respond completely differently than I would have otherwise. So I do believe that we're always experiencing whatever dimension that we're currently in. We're gathering information from that vibration in order to maintain it. So we have to leave breadcrumbs from our higher selves, habits, whatever, kind of like how we leave breadcrumbs for lucid dreaming, where you like practice when you're awake so that your mind will automatically go there when you're asleep. I think it's similar to that.
Yeah, that's helpful. Can you share a little bit more about how you responded differently?
Yeah. When I feel resistance, well, I should say that there are certain times that trigger resistance in me. And when I'm feeling resistance, I react as such, like, don't penetrate me type mindset. And one example of this recently was this is so stupid, but my mom was over, and there's just a lot of things with my mom. And my mom she actually has OCD. And so, and again, I love you, Mom, if you hear this, but she when she gets fixated on something, it's like that, it's really worrying her inside. And so it can be little things like, you should put socks on his feet, like they seem cold, you live in the mountains. And I'm like, I've read all these books about barefoot babies and how good it is for them to feel the earth on the ground, like I keep the house warm, whatever. But it really bothers her, and so a lot of times she'll keep bringing it up. Well, I was already kind of in this mindset. It was my baby's birthday, and so then the next thing that came up, we're like talking about something, and I could feel myself creating the story that, God, she's always pushing me. She's always pushing me. And I'm like, is that even true? And so Byron Katie popped into my mind. It's like, is that true? Is there a different way to experience this? And the next thing she started talking about was business cards. And we've had this conversation about business cards before. I have business cards. I'm not the best at handing them out. I am a millennial. I do a lot of things digitally. I'm like, I could text somebody my business card.
I have a podcast.
Yeah, I have a podcast. I send like I can just add them to my phone, and then I send a voice memo to them, or like I'll do an emoji little thing to stand out. So I have my own ways. I've explained this before 17 different times over the years. And so, but it comes up again, and this is her idea. And so I could feel myself being about to be like, enough with the business cards. Like, I'm not going to carry them. Like, and I start to sound like a little kid brat, but instead I softened, and I'm like thinking, I don't need to, however this conversation ends, I get to choose what I do with it after that. So I can either resist, make my mom feel bad when she's like, she's not trying to, what if I experience this as she's not trying to push this on me. Instead, she wants to help. Like all of a sudden, this story that I was holding on to started to just dissolve. I could feel it in my body. I actually feel it again right now. And this other version came through. And so clearly I could see that it makes me want to cry, because I do love my mom so much. And sometimes it's so easy to get into this other story, but my mom was an amazing mother growing up. And some of my beliefs are different than hers. She's religious. I am not. So I know that's already hard for her. And I spiraled in my 20s. I know that she questioned her own parenting and why that happened, and if she could have done anything different, because she's mentioned things that also cause resistance. I shouldn't have let you go to that college. I shouldn't have let you move out. And I'm like, what, you think you could have stopped me? I was running away from home the moment I turned 18. And so these little points of resistance, and instead of like, I should have done this, blah, 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 and I'm experiencing it as, what, you would have changed my life and I would have been the person that I am today. So you're not happy with who I am today. Like, that's the story that comes out. When for her, it's, I'm so proud of you and I want to help. And that's all I've ever wanted. And so I have my way of doing it, and it might not be what you're ready to receive. And suddenly I was able to internalize that, saw it for what it was. And that stupid business card conversation, I was like, you know what? There are opportunities for me to leave my business cards, because my business cards are just my podcast art with like the website on the back. I could leave that at coffee shops. That's not a terrible idea, especially in the small little town that I live in, where people are driving up to snowboard and driving back down the mountain. Maybe some people would turn, I'm not doing anything else with them, and I printed them for some reason. So it was just this moment of like, such a simple example, but realizing how often it happens when we come to resistance. And it's like those moments on ayahuasca. Like, one of those times, it was that same friend that kept going through these negative things. And she came to me in an ayahuasca vision or experience. And it was funny because there were no words said on the other side. I was just able to like see her soul at that moment and see what she was going through. And there had been a bunch of little tensions that were building up in our friendship. And then I did ayahuasca, and all of a sudden, all of those things dissipated, and I could see what she was really going through. And so these moments in life make me realize how often I attach to a story. I attach to my own personalized version of reality that might be completely different than the other person, and how much of that resistance or that tension can be avoided just by letting go. And instead of having the energy of like pushing my reality onto the other person, can I receive theirs and integrate it, and then decide later what I want to do with it, and trust that just by being more open and receptive to what they're saying or what they're doing doesn't even mean I need to change, or change anything that I was going to do with that information afterwards. But there's something that I think is powerful about that process of integrating another version, like receiving another version of reality. And in my mind, I'm like integrating it and moving forward. And it allows me to move forward with my version with more acceptance for everyone else's.
Hey friend, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this particular clip, then I have something else I want to tell you about, which is the League of Superconductors. It's a business mastermind that I run to elevate the greatest change makers of our time. That is people that I like to call quantum entrepreneurs, metaphysical, spiritual teachers, healers, coaches, light workers of different types. And this is a year-long business mastermind starting in May of 2022. So if that's the type of thing that you're looking for, if you're looking to better fuel your mission by having a business that brings in all the abundance you're looking for, that both operates at the 3D level, serving the people of Earth, and at a multi-dimensional level, bringing in all of the higher wisdom and experience that you have access to, that's what we're doing. So if that sounds like something for you, then you can check out the link below, read a little bit more about the program, what we do each month. And I also invite you to apply for a call with me, a strategy session. We can get to know each other. I'll coach you a little bit, and you can decide if that might be the exact thing that you've been looking for. All right, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.